Hello everybody and welcome to the War Room. This one is for this weekend's UFC main event. Keeps kind of shifting and changing. So we've got Erin Blanchfield initially taking on Taila Santos. Now Santos has been replaced by Jéssica Andrade, which, although there's actually a difference in the rankings, Blanchfield was fighting the number 1 ranked Taila Santos and now she's fighting number 3 ranked Jéssica Andrade. But given the fact that Andrade is a former champion, I feel like there's a lot more benefit to this one for Blanchfield, although of course it's going to be an incredibly tough fight. Before we go any further, a quick shout out to our sponsors for this episode. Our friends at AG1 are keeping us supplied through Veronica's training camp. This is amazing stuff. Before I do anything in the morning, we get up, we get our Athletic Greens bottle, we put 12 ounces of water in it, put a scoop in and shake it up, and before I even think about doing anything, I make sure I've got this in my system. So I've got my probiotics, I've got my vitamins and minerals covered, all of my baseline. So no matter how chaotic the day is, I know that my health is covered. They're also a fantastic company. They're a climate neutral company, so obviously we're not causing any environmental issues by getting on board with this company, which we can't say about a lot of other companies around the world at the moment, unfortunately. They're also donating meals to kids as well, which of course is very important in the current cost of living crisis. You've got to make sure that your kids are getting fed. In 2020, Athletic Greens donated 1.2 million meals to kids, which is absolutely awesome. So we're happy to be representing them, happy to be using this as a brand as well. Very, very valuable to my health, certainly, and Veronica's during training camp. We are loving this stuff. And if you use our code, so if you go to athleticgreens.com/outlawed, outlawed with an ED on the end, you will get your whole setup that you need to keep you fueled and athletic green during the day. You'll get a year's free supply of vitamin D and K2, which is essential for immune system, especially in the winter months when you're not getting too much sunshine. You've got to get this in your system. Everybody's immune system is suppressed since COVID and the lockdown and everything. You've got to make sure you're getting this in your system to protect you. You'll also get 5 free travel packs, which are really convenient for me when I'm on the road. If I'm rushing out the door, I can throw a couple in my bag with my AG1 bottle and I know that I'm covered. I know that I'm set for the day. athleticgreens.com/outlawed. Use that code and you'll get these free items along with your order. I can't recommend this stuff enough. It really is excellent. And it is the ultimate daily nutritional insurance, as Athletic Greens put it. Okay, tail of the tape. So the former champion taking this one on short notice, Jéssica Andrade, 24 wins and 9 losses on her record, lots of experience compared to Blanchfield, who's 10-1. One loss on her record is a split decision to Tracy Cortez back in Invicta when she was 19. I'll be honest, I've watched that fight a couple of times. I scored it to Blanchfield. I thought she won at least 2 rounds. Sub-attempts, just generally being aggressive on the floor. It was quite even when it came to the wrestling. Striking was fairly even as well. But when it hit the floor, Blanchfield was on triangles. She was on arm bars. She was very threatening on the floor. And her ground game really is the thing that has been setting her apart. And the question for me in this one is whether she can get this fight to the floor or not and keep Andrade there. So a 3-inch height advantage for Blanchfield as well as a 4-inch reach advantage. Again, Andrade's always fighting opponents that are taller than her with reach advantages, etc. The defining factor of Andrade, though, is her aggression and her power, and that tends to nullify any kind of advantages in reach or height that her opponents have. So although, of course, there are certain things that Blanchfield can do to make the most of that height and reach advantage, it's going to be difficult to find those spaces in this fight against Andrade just because she's so aggressive. Slightly higher striking output for Andrade. Of course, the striking accuracy is on Blanchfield's side as well as the striking defense. But then again, if you're Andrade and you've got that power on your side, you're quite happy to throw a few shots that might not land in order to get you close enough to throw shots that will land. And most of the time she's going to be happy with the power exchange with her opponents. She's going to feel like she can hit them harder than they can hit her, which means that her striking defense is not quite as high as Blanchfield. Blanchfield, she is hittable, but she doesn't tend to win those power exchanges quite as well as Jéssica Andrade. Really, if we're looking at Blanchfield, this is about clinching and taking this fight to the floor fairly quickly. I don't know how long and how much success she's going to have on the feet against Andrade. Like, if you go back into Blanchfield's record, you watch her fight against Victoria Leonardo, it was a really nice left head kick. As she was moving along the fence, she threw the left hand to left high kick and caught her with it clean, knocked her out. I'm not saying that she can't land a shot like that. Absolutely she can. There's just going to be less space in this fight against Andrade because she's going to be walking into a range all the time. It's going to require really good footwork from Blanchfield to maintain some space so she can land those strikes. Whereas if she can clinch Andrade, hold her against the fence, slow her down, she uses lots of really nice body lock trips and reaps and stuff that's not like... She's not looking for big air with her takedowns. She's not looking for like dramatic slams or anything like that, which is obviously the opposite of Andrade. So the wrestling of Blanchfield does make her a more efficient fighter. And I do feel like she's going to have to keep recycling these takedown attempts against Andrade if she's going to be able to get her to the floor and keep her there. Because you've got to try and slow Andrade down. You've got to try and smother her a little bit. And that's incredibly difficult because, as we've seen, she doesn't seem to really slow down. I mean, you have to hurt her to kind of back her up a little bit, and that's difficult to do. So for me, Blanchfield's kind of up against it in this one. I think it's going to be a really tough fight for her because for me, Andrade is pretty much the best in the division aside from the champ, and she might find herself in this situation for a little while. She might be good enough to hold off everybody in the division apart from get the belt back around her waist. And Blanchfield's still very early on in her career. I still feel like there's a lot of time for her to develop, you know. I mean, there's 8 years difference between the two. There's clearly a lot more time in Blanchfield's future, but dealing with this problem right now might be a little bit too much for her. As far as Blanchfield's game goes, I mean, I've enjoyed researching. I think she's got very, very slick parts to her game. She is a little bit slow when it comes to the striking range. She does tend to get hit as she's throwing, and if you're fighting Andrade, you don't really want to be exchanging those shots with her because you're going to come off worse most of the time. But she is very good at striking her way into the clinch. She's very good if you watch the Alpar fight where she's using her forearms up against the fence to smash an elbow to set up her body locks. I feel like that would be really useful against Andrade because, again, you know, losing the power exchange, you can still do a lot of damage with elbows even if you're the underpowered fighter. Elbows and knees at close range will be really valuable to her. And because she's not too worried about this fight being taken to the floor, if she's able to pressure at close range, then Andrade might feel like she has to wrestle to get off the fence. Of course, Blanchfield's got to be cautious of the strength and power of Andrade, the picks up and slams, etc. But she's also got to be concerned about her locking up submissions standing, as we saw from Andrade against Lemos. That standing arm triangle was really, really slick. And as I've been watching Blanchfield, there's been a couple of times where she's put her arm in the wrong place in the clinch, and I thought to myself, if she's fighting Andrade there, she's going to be fighting out of an arm triangle. It's a bit of an unpredictable test for her, to be honest. I feel like there's a lot to be gained from this, like I said, because Andrade is the former champion. But I also feel like she's in very much a Joe Benavidez kind of situation where she's kind of the second best in the division aside from the champion. And it might be a little bit too early for Blanchfield. It might be a bit of a shock to the system because you've also got to consider their records side by side. I mean, you know, we look at the stats and we look at, you know, Andrade's got a slightly higher striking output. Blanchfield's got more takedowns per 15 minutes. I mean, takedown accuracy is on Blanchfield's side. Takedown defense is also on her side. But again, you know, you look at the fighters that they've been up against. Like, this is the first time Blanchfield's fought anybody in the top 15. She's fought decent fighters. You know, don't get me wrong. She's, you know, Victoria Leonardo, Brogan Walker Sanchez, Sarah Alpar, Miranda Maverick, JJ Aldrich, Molly McCann, of course. You know, she's fought all good fighters. But then you look at that compared to the opponents that Andrade's had and their champions, former champions, title contenders. You know, her losses are Shevchenko, Rose, and Zhang Weili. But she's also got a win over Rose. She knocked out Karolina Kowalkiewicz. You know, wins over Tisha Torres, Claudia Gadea. Her level of competition has just been slightly higher, and I do feel like that will be evident in the fight. I feel like first of all, she's been confident to take this one on short notice, and I think that kind of demonstrates how she views Blanchfield. It might be a little bit of a Mayweather-Canelo situation where, let me fight him now before he gets any better, and then I can step away and retire, and he can go on to be one of the greatest, and I don't have to fight him again because I've already beaten him. That it might be a smart call for Andrade jumping in and taking this one because, first of all, Blanchfield's not really had the time to prepare for Andrade. Second of all, she's a little early in her career maybe to be fighting someone like Andrade, and Andrade's been to the top of the tree. You know, she's fought the best fighters in the world. She's got wins over some of them, and she's on a 3-fight win streak, beat the hell out of Lauren Murphy in that last fight. I feel like if she's able to maintain that kind of performance against Blanchfield, her power and her strength is going to really be very, very evident. The one thing I'm kind of unsure about with this one is the fact that it's a 5-rounder, because you've got to think that Blanchfield is... she's thinking the longer this fight goes, the more it's going to suit her. But she's not done 5 rounds in her career. She's got a few 3-round victories. You know, Miranda Maverick, Sarah Alpar were both 3-round decisions. Brogan Walker-Sanchez as well. An extra 2 rounds is different, especially if you've been taking body shots from Andrade. I mean, you remember that hook that she landed on Chukagian. It hurt her so hard she spun 360. It was a really, really powerful shot. And any time when you're close to Andrade, she can always unleash one of those kind of John Lineker buzzsaw combinations where she's swinging from the fences and digging body and head. And she's not really aiming for any particular target. She's aiming at whatever she thinks she can land on. And as I said, Blanchfield at close range, she is quite hittable. I wonder how many times she can take one of those buzzsaw combinations before she looks really hurt. And it doesn't have to be a shot to the head. A shot to the body can be just as effective as we saw against Chukagian. If the fight hits the floor, this is where... So say, for example, Blanchfield's attempted takedowns 2, 3, 4 times, and she's been able to secure a takedown for a second, but then Andrade scrambled back to her feet, and then she's been able to trip her down again, but Andrade's back to her feet. There's going to be a point when that scrambling ability will run low, and this is where Blanchfield, I feel, can start to take over the fight. And if she comes in conditioned, ready for 5 rounds, then she's going to be able to push into those last couple of rounds and really put a lot of pressure on Andrade and on her conditioning. And if she's able to secure top position, we know she's really good with the crucifix. She was able to control Molly McCann there. She was able to put Miranda Maverick there for a good period of time. It seems to be a really comfortable position for her to just pin one leg, keep another arm wrapped up in this pocket here, and just work short range punches and elbows. These are the moments where she might be able to do some damage to Andrade. But I also don't think she's going to be able to hold her there for very long. I feel like she's going to have moments where she can throw strikes, and then she's going to have to go back to wrestling and control. It's a really, really good opportunity for her. But this might be a little step up. It might be a bit of a shock to the system to fight someone as physically powerful as Andrade. And some of the things that Blanchfield's been able to do against previous opponents, she might not be able to get away with against Andrade. It's a really fun fight, though. It's a really exciting fight because I think Blanchfield's got a bright future ahead of her. I think she's a very, very skilled individual. And like I said, she could quite easily be undefeated. She's got 1 loss on her record by split decision against Tracy Cortez. I feel like she won that fight the first time. I feel like if they fought again, Blanchfield would beat her. And then the fights that she's had since then, she's got a couple of finishes, beautiful guillotine over Aldrich, which was a fight that she was losing in the striking ranges. I felt like Aldrich was doing really, really well at managing range and not getting drawn too much into a clinch. But a scramble happens, a neck becomes available. Really nice high elbow guillotine up against the fence. Again, she's taller, she's got longer arms. These might be options for her against Andrade. But it's all offsetting that power of Andrade and what damage she can do at close range. And if she does linger too much at close range, feel like, oh my goodness, I've got to hold her up against the fence, I feel safe here. And next thing, Andrade is either trying to pick you up and slam you, or she's trying to wrap you up in a head and arm choke from standing. Should be an interesting one, this is. Quite a high submission output for Erin Blanchfield. She does consistently attack, and she has a real varied submission game as well. We've seen her attacking arms and triangles. She's got great Kimura attacks, and with that crucifix, she can hold people in that position and chop away at them. Again, Andrade, can you hold her in that position? I feel like most people would struggle to hold Andrade in a crucifix just because she's short, stocky and powerful, and she's going to be able to wriggle her elbows free and get back to her feet. a real test for Blanchfield. But, you know, I mean, if she wins this, like, so Blanchfield's ranked number 10 at the moment. She's fighting number 3 ranked Andrade. If she beats her, she puts herself in some really very, very interesting fights in the next couple of outings, and she could quite easily be fighting for a title in the next 2 or 3 fights. You know, a win over Andrade, she might get one more opportunity to fight somebody else, and then she might find herself in there against Shevchenko. And then it's a bit of a battle of the crucifix to see who gets there first, because of course that's what Shevchenko's good at as well. Fun fight, this one. I'm looking forward to it. I always like to see Andrade fight because she's a bit of an anomaly in these divisions. She's a problem that a lot of fighters really struggle to deal with, purely based on her aggression and her power. Her ability to generate power with every single punch that she throws usually finds a gap in someone's guard where she can do a lot of damage to them. And I think that's, of course, going to be a simple game plan for Andrade. Stay at distance, keep cracking her with big shots, and don't get tangled up in any wrestling exchanges where she's just burning unnecessary energy against someone that can really hustle in the clinch and chain takedowns together to ground her opponents. Interesting one. I will be looking forward to it. Enjoy the fights, and I'll see you next time.